Hi, I'm Daryl Urbanski, and welcome to the Best Business Podcast. My mission is to help create 200 new multi-millionaire business owners. How? You'll do better when you know better. In my interviews, you'll hear from self-made millionaires, seven-figure business owners, authors, and world-class experts sharing how they did it so you can too without experiencing the same obstacles they did. When your life and your business grow as a result of what you're about to discover, please call me and tell me about it. The number to leave a voicemail is 1-888-844-GROW. That's 1-888-844-4769. Long distance charges may apply. Dial now to call me, connect, share your personal story of how my interviews have helped, or share your current challenges and frustrations so I can connect you with an appropriate course, coach, or help you if you connect. Now, if you like this interview, please share it with a friend you think will benefit. They'll appreciate it, and I will as well. You can also connect with me on social media. Look for Daryl Urbanski, D-A-R-Y-L, Urban Ski, U-R-B-A-N-S-K-I, and add me so we can be friends. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy what I've prepared for you right here, right now.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always, and today we are talking with David Lopez. And David is a sales and marketing expert who has sold millions of dollars worth of products, services, and fundraising as an external rep for many different major corporations. He's won multiple sales awards for being a top producer across all of North America and also built and mentored several sales teams to sell more effectively. Now, he is the founder and CEO of Majesty Level Marketing, Inc., where he helps businesses increase productivity with sales, get more customers, and increase their profits. He also mentors individuals who are interested in learning about sales and becoming experts in sales and the sales process. So that's the majority here today because sales is the lifeblood of every business. So hopefully this will be a jam-packed call. And David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing, my friend?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing amazing. Really an honor to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited about this too because, depending who you talk to, sales can kind of feel like an icky word or a taboo thing. And that's not how I feel. That's not what I believe. And I know that's clearly not what you believe. And I think that a lot of it comes from misinformation and people not really understanding like what sales is and how the process works and how to be efficient at it. But before we jump into that, how did you even get into sales? Like, did you come from a family where sales was a really important thing? Like, did you have a family of entrepreneurs, or was your dad and your great-granddad a sales rep? Like, how did you even get involved in this area of the business?
For myself, I was pretty much like a person who always had like sales in him. I've like always started selling since a very young age on whatever I could, like toys, on anything I could just, make some money out. And I was like 8 years old, 9 years old. And then afterwards, I started even doing like grabbing jewelry and then selling it for a little bit higher price when I was like around 11. So I've always had that in me for my family. They were just workers, hardworking people. And I just wanted more. So I had that ambition to go for more. So I think I have something that I had in me.
So how did your career develop? Like you said, you were 8. What were you selling when you were 8?
So when I was like 8, 7, 6 years old, I was selling my own toys to other friends after I finished playing with them, or I would just, if some of my friends didn't want stuff in their home, I would sell them. So I always had that like entrepreneurial like mindset when I was very young. I would always find a way to be creative and to make something out of nothing. So to pretty much make some sales, or like how do you call that when you go outside, sell all your stuff in the neighborhood in front of your house?
Yeah, garage sale.
The garage sale, yeah. So I did like things like that. But then when I was like 11, that's where I took it more seriously, and I went to an actual business, got some jewelry for them and from them, and then sold it for a higher profit in the hood. So that's something that.
Wait. When you were 11. When you were 11.
That's when I was 11.
What do you mean you went and got some jewelry? You were like, can I have this $1,000 ring, and I'm going to go and I'll come back in a day with some money and pay you for it. I just got to go sell it first. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I had some money saved up, right? So I went there to buy some stuff, but I wanted a little bit more. So they actually end up fronting me a little bit more. So I came back with more, and that's something that I just started doing as a side hustle when I was young too.
So what were some of the greatest challenges that you faced in your career? Like working, it sounds like exclusively in sales. Like, was it just smooth sailing from the start? Did you I didn't know I was, because at 11, you've got a ton of enthusiasm, and maybe some natural people skills. But I'm sure that there's a lot to learn and, going your 10,000 hours, so to speak, in a niche. And so what were some, were there phases where you, I didn't learn about this, but then, for example, prospecting. I didn't really get prospecting as a kid, and then I clued into this age, or I understand rapport. What were some of those challenges? Were there milestones that you crossed?
Yeah, for sure. So when I was young, right, I wasn't prepared, right? I was just doing it as a hobby. So I was just going and selling to all the people I knew, the people I can contact, a lot of networking. I was just pretty much doing it like that. Now, when I started around 18, 19 years old, selling for a big company that was handling all the sales for third party, that's where I started learning more about prospecting, sales, handling objections, really pretty much the whole sales process, really on a professional level, more corporate level. So that's where my journey started.
How would you define sales?
I would define sales like one of the most important assets in this world, right? That's what makes money moves around. If any company needs sales in order to be able to survive. So I think that sales is what, is the currency of this world.
And what would you suggest to some people who are maybe just starting out in sales or are struggling with their sales? Is there any kind of fun, we'll maybe go more in depth in the fundamentals, but where's a good starting point? If you're just starting or you're struggling and kind of, and awkward with it. Yeah.
So really, it's you have to start liking sales, right? I know a lot of people have that. They're against sales. They're oh, I don't like salespeople. They're so pushy. They're just so annoying. They just don't give up. They're so persistent. They just annoy me, and or they have that perception. But since you were a little kid, you were pretty much selling on your opinions, or either you were, sold by someone else's opinions. An example, if your mom wanted you to go to, to do some cleaning, and then you didn't want to go to do some cleaning, then you're selling her on the idea of why you shouldn't do it right now. Oh, Mom, I'm going to do it later. I'm going to do this. You're selling her all the ideas on why you shouldn't do it, and she's going to sell you on why you should do it right now. So right from a very young age, you're already, either being sold or selling. So that's something that we have in us, but sometimes we don't realize it. Now, when you take it to the corporate world, where now you need, to make some sales, it's you need to know that it's something that we have in us, and it's important to manifest it into a higher level, right? But sometimes we don't even realize that we had that in us. A lot of people don't even realize that they were selling their ideas, or they were sold, their friend's idea. They don't see it in that perspective.
I love it. So you just said, prepare. Some of the tips you've already given in sales is to be prepared. Don't just show up and wing it. Prospecting apparently is clearly a very important part of the sales process, as well as enjoying selling and not giving up. It sounds like if you're starting out and struggling, that those are some really good places to keep your focus, to make sure that you're preparing before your calls, that you're constantly prospecting, that you're finding ways to enjoy selling and maybe even celebrate the small victories, and that you just are committed to it and in it to win it. Kind of comes back to enjoying it. If you're not necessarily directly tied to an outcome, I'm going to make this much money this month, you can if it's motivating you, but to just actually enjoy it as a daily grind, like getting up and going to the gym every day just because you want to get better. Just if you're a gardener, getting up and then working on the garden every day, just knowing that it's a process, then you'll have way more success, it sounds like.
Yes, 100%. You have to really fall in love with it because, a lot of times people are going to tell you no, or they're going to be having a bad day and they're going to tell you something that, you're not going to like or whatever. You cannot let that affect, how your day is going to go, the rhythm of your attitude. You're not going to lose your attitude because, someone else is having a bad day. Like, you need to keep the control on what you're doing and actually be, intense in what you're going to do. So an example, if you know that, you have to get to the no's in order to get to your yes, then you're not going to get disappointed when people are telling you no. You're not just going to lose your attitude when people are telling you no. You're going to keep pushing because you understand that you need the no's in order to get to the yes, and you actually fall in love with that process. If you don't fall in love with that process, you're going to hate sales, like, period, because you're just going to get so many no's in front of you that you're just going to lose it. You're going to be like, why is it? Is it me? Is it them? Is it like you're always going to, to be blaming the world instead of blaming yourself. But now if you start blaming yourself all the time, like, okay, maybe it's because I wasn't persistent enough. Or maybe I just lost control here. He was asking more questions that I was asking at one point, and he was just dominating the conversation. So I lost it. If you're always blaming yourself on why you wasn't able to close the sale, then that's something else that's going to be able to, elevate you in your sales game. But, sales is not something that's easy because there's a lot of rejection. There's a lot of rejection. It's part of the rejection. And most people feel weird or they feel bad when it comes down to rejection, but it's part of the game. It's just like if you get familiar with rejection and you just make it part of what you do, then you understand that it's there to be there, and it cannot just disappear, and you just you start treating it like something normal. But now when you're not used to getting no's, then you just don't react well to that. You have most times, very, bad attitude against rejections, like people. And that's where the click doesn't happen, I would say.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. One of the things that I found really inspiring personally was when someone told me that sales doesn't really begin until you get the first no. Like, up until then, if you are only doing business with people that don't say no, and you don't have to change that no around, you're really just getting the laydowns. Like, you're really just an order taker. You're just sifting through a group of people, and you're taking the orders from the people that are just hyper ready. But that's like 3%. You're leaving an incredible amount of money on the table because there's a lot of people that would, one, benefit that or need what you have, or a whole host of things, but they have a personal belief or a limiting belief that's preventing them from going. They have fear. They're not really willing to take the time and sit down and focus on the problem that they have, that they're suffering from, or they haven't thought about the implications of not addressing this right now. And so it's like that. Like, it's sometimes people are so busy and they think that you're on your own agenda, and you are showing up because you have a personal vested interest, and you have to work beyond that. I mean, you're the sales expert, not me, so please correct me if anything I say is wrong. But I think that's a big part of it. Like, and that was really, I don't know. I think I'm okay. I don't think I'm super great. I've been told a couple of people, but I think I'm okay at sales. But that was a big aha for me, was that if you never really have to deal with a no, either A, you're phenomenal at overcoming objections before they come up, or B, you're just taking orders. And if you think about like an income earning ladder, the big bucks are for people that solve the big problems. And so if you're just taking orders, that's like it's a minimum wage kind of job, and it can be, you might make your income goals, but you might have to work a lot harder. I don't know. What do you think about that?
No, 100%, 100%. Like, sales is all about, also having to put in the hours, right? Because if you don't practice, then you're not going to be as good as if you practice 1,000 hours, right? If you practice 1,000 hours, if you practice 10,000 hours, then you're just going to be a better and better and better, at sales and closing and prospecting and handling objections. There's a lot of different times and parts of the sales, so you need to be familiar with it, right? So it's all about really going through it, right? Being able to handle objections. Also, when objections usually come, sometimes people freak out, right? They're like, oh my God, I have to handle another objection. Oh my God. Okay. So, and then that's the way they treat it. For myself, I treat it more like, oh, I'm pumped every time they give me an objection. I'm like, perfect. Boom. Let's handle it. And then like, hey, do you have one more? You have one more? Okay, boom, let's handle that one. Okay, perfect. And then I'm just waiting for them to throw them all at me because I'm prepared. I'm like, I'm ready for it. I'm like, I know you're gonna have objections. Let's get rid of them right now. Let's knock them out the park one by one. And I know that there's going to be that point where they're going just to be naked. They're not going to have no more objections because I've just knocked each one out of the park. And then that's where, is there anything else? No? Perfect. So how do you want to get started? Visa or MasterCard, right? You just go directly for the close, right? You're not asking them do you want to do this right now? Like, do you think you want to do this with us right now? Do you think we could be a good fit? Like, you just want to, assume the sale, right? That's something about closing that I see a lot of people that, are not comfortable with, and it's assuming the sale, right? They're not saying like, what's your last name? Let's fill it up on the form and let's get you, started. It's like, they're like, do you think I can sign you up? Or they're like very, like, they don't feel comfortable bringing the prospect to that place, right? So, and that's a big problem I see, because it's like, you don't even believe that they're going to buy. Like, you're asking them if they want to buy. If you believe that they're going to buy, you're not going to ask them in that type of manner, right?
I love that. Be confident, asking for the order, and believe that they will buy. Like, hey, all right. And like you said, assume the sale. Awesome. So do you want to put this on PayPal or credit card or what?
100%. I think closing means assuming the sale, right? That's, for me, that's the translation. Closing, assuming the sale, right? If you're not assuming, then how do you expect the prospect to believe you're going to close them when you don't even believe you're going to close them, right? So how can the sale happen when you don't even believe it, right? It all starts by you believing you're going to close them and that they're in the bag, right? Like, there is nothing in the world that they're going to be able to tell you that, will sell you on why they don't need what you have. It's like, how important it is, and it's just, our job to press upon them in order for them to do the actions that they need to be successful. Because, if we just are, that's something else, right? And when you're selling, it comes down to a lot of values too, because you could be selling something that's bad for them, right? And then you're just, being very, with all those, with a lot of techniques, just pushing product that's bad, that's not, good on as a value, right?
Harmful.
You need to make sure that, you're selling something that's actually helping people, right? So, when you make sure that you have something that's helping them, that's gonna, bring them to a higher level, and that it's going to benefit, then that's when, you press upon them, because maybe they don't know right now why they should get it, but I know why they should get it. And 5 months or 3 months from now, they're going to be so grateful that, they did take action, because that's what people, need. They need that push. That's why salespeople make the world go round, right? That's what, salespeople are so important, because they give you that experience. They make you get that experience. You get a car, they made you feel that experience. Look, touch the car, look at the car, like drive it. Hey, like they make you feel good about it, right? But sometimes, you don't realize it, right? But they're here to help. They're here to help you, and they're just here to provide value, right? So that's why I believe sales is like, you provide value to people by what you're selling, and you're just doing doing miracles out there, getting people to get to a higher level, to take action, to change their mindset. It's like, it's all about it's not that easy in this world, right? To just, have to deal with all the things that happen to us in life, like growing up, like having, maybe having parents or having family who have cancer, or there's a lot of things that are going to, come our way, but it's all about keeping that positivity in our life too. It's the same thing with sales, right? Like, there's a lot of things that are going to happen, but you need to keep that positivity, that positive mindset. It's people are going to tell you no, people are going to throw rocks at you. Whatever happens, you just always have to keep a positive attitude, and you can't let no one affect that. It's very, very important in order for your mental state to be very, very powerful in sales. Because if not, you let other people get in, or problems get in, or situations to get in, and that's where it doesn't let you operate on foolish, just fool. Right?
That's actually something that I've recently, a few months ago, started getting into, trying to refine my own sales skills. And, like anything, we can always improve on things. But it happened because I had a call with a guy, and I felt like somehow it became confrontational. The way I was trying, like, I don't think it wasn't like overtly, but I felt like I lost, as what you said, maintaining a positive attitude. I felt like I was influenced by the prospect too much, and then it became more adversarial. But that's not my personality. It's not who I am. That's not what I'm about, And so, can you speak to that a little bit, like, because other people have preconditioned beliefs and situations, and and just they have their own world, their own mindset. They may see the world as a hostile place primarily, and that's not your fault. Can you talk about that? Like, because you have to walk through that. It's almost like you have to walk through other people's mental garbage, to a certain extent, like a minefield of dog poop or something, and it's not your fault. But if you want to reach that person, you've got to cross that yard to get to them. Can you talk about that a little bit, like avoiding being pulled into that kind of stuff, and how do you avoid it becoming adversarial?
So that's where it comes down to really understanding your position, even though if you say something. So an example, you could agree with what they're saying, even if you completely disagree, but you're agreeing because you don't want to have a confrontation with the prospect. You just want to be on the same side of them in order to be able to go further along the road of the sales with them. So an example, if they're saying no, I don't agree with this because of that. And then you're just like, no, but it's because this, no, I don't agree because of that, and because of this, and because of that. So it doesn't make sense what you're saying. Now you're just getting into a confrontation because you're saying what you think and he's saying what he thinks, instead of still be able to be on the same side of the boat. So I would agree with the prospect completely. I agree to disagree. So I would completely say, oh, I completely agree with what you're saying right now. That, you think that it doesn't get you results because you've seen this and this in the past. But what I found is that when we actually do this, and we do this and do that and do this and do that, then you're going to be able to get this result like Jessica did. You want me to show you how, Jessica was able to get those results? Yeah, sure. But now you went from completely, not agreeing with them, but agreeing with them, and then disagreeing with them, but you were able to get further down the line. And it's all about doing that as more often as there's this thing that they say, the client is always right? Even if they're wrong, they're right? Because if you tell them they're wrong, then that's where you get into that confrontation. And that's something in sales that is very important, to be able to not come up as a confrontation and come up as a conversation. Always keep it as a conversation, right? And if you can practice that over and over and over and over, and then just master it, that's going to help big time, because you're just going to find that you're not getting into confrontations with customers Like you're just always flowing. It's always flowing. It's always flowing because you're not falling in that trap of like, no, it's because of this. No, it's because of that. No, I don't believe this because of this. And it's just, you're not fighting. And you can't fight with your prospects because then you're not bringing them to the close. You want them to just, the goal at the end is for them to get what you're selling, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get into a confrontation with them and then they end up hanging up the phone, then it's not going to, help for them to sign up, right? So that's where it's our duty and our job to make sure that we bring them further down the line to be able to close them. Because if we close them too soon, then they weren't just, we maybe didn't, impulse them enough. We didn't work, all the strategies we could have worked with the person, right? So that's why we have to go further down the line, make sure we handle all their objections. Maybe they just gave one objection, but then on the first objection, we already got into a confrontation. Then how can we get to the fifth objection, handle that, and get to the close? So that's where I've seen a lot of sales reps just getting into a confrontation with their prospects. So it happens, but it's all about learning and getting better.
I feel like, so just to try to paraphrase what you're saying, just to help for my own understanding and the listener's understanding, it's almost like if you had a teenage cousin or something and they had in their head some sort of plan that you knew was a really bad idea, but because they're younger and they haven't had much experience in the world or on their own, they're going to run head first into this thing, and they just think it's the best thing since sliced bread. And that, like, because of the age gap between you both, that, or even just because of the difference in development, right? Not necessarily one's better than the other, but you can't, if you just tell them they're wrong, or, like a parent, you try to get into that parental control thing, the more you try to control them, the more they're just going to push away and do their own thing. So you would have to actually, that's why when you said, like, the client's always right, it's not because the client's always right, it's because you have to maintain rapport, and you have to start, like, when I had my martial arts school, I remember I had this martial arts school for 3 years. And in the beginning, I would always be worried about, what am I going to teach tonight? What am I going to teach tonight? Like, what am I going to teach tonight? And then I realized it's not about what I'm going to teach. It's about what the people that come need to learn. And what I mean by that is I may have a plan to teach a flow of 3 or 4 moves, right? But when people come, some people don't have the coordination or are getting stuck on the first or second move. So it's really about just helping them go to the next stage, right? If I have the blueprints of a 10-story building, like a Lego building, and you're stuck on levels 3 and 4, my blueprints above level 4 don't really matter right now. We need to get you from level 3 to level 4. So when you say, like, the client is always right, even if they're not right, I'm just trying to say that's because you're not trying to come and overwhelm them. You're trying to, like, come and communicate them, and almost like an inflatable balloon, you're trying to raise them up by starting with where they're at, right? Finding a way to get a way to influence them and get them to hear you, and then building them up to where you both have the same understanding. Is that accurate at all?
Yeah, 100%, right? You want to bring them further down the line, right? You don't want to just lose them right away, because if not, it's just a loss. It doesn't make any sense just because, our ego wants to, prove us that, we can be good at a confrontation. That's not going to, help us at all. What's going to help us is really getting down and closing that sale. So it's always about understanding the techniques and what you have to go through. You can never react. The customer is always right. And make sure that, when you're doing that, you're always agreeing, but then afterward you disagree. Don't disagree before you agree, because that's where the confrontation will happen.
Right.
So you do agree with them, right? I completely understand that, that you had a very bad experience in the past. But what I found is that when we actually take this approach, then it doesn't happen the way it happened to Jackson. You want me to show you how we did it for Jackson? And then you're completely just bringing them to another place. You're handling the objection, or you're handling the disagreement, but you're handling by agreeing and then disagreeing by showing them something else, and then you completely brought them to another place, but you didn't even have to go through a confrontation. So that's where it really works. Sales, and that part of sales is really important to master, because if not, you will get blocked with some confrontations here and there with the prospects, right? So it's always, that's like it's like a pretty much like a game that you can play that will always get you further down the sales close.
And being able to ask the right questions is really helpful too, because in that scenario, client says, well, I've been burned in the past by people like you before. And if you had the right questions going, so I hear what you're saying, and there are a lot of shady people out there. Do you think that everyone in the industry is shady? Do you think that everyone in the industry is going to burn? Yes, no, okay. So, like, what would be some telltale signs to you? And I'm just making this up, but, like, what would be some telltale signs to you of a reputable company? And then when they tell you what those are, and be like, well, we actually have that, like, and we've got that, and we've got that. And I'm here, I'm not trying to push this on you. I just really think it's a good fit. And then now and then you kind of move them down the line. Is that accurate? Is that?
Yeah. I move them down the line with questions, right? Like you always want to be asking the questions, because then that keeps you in control, and it keeps you obtaining information, right? You want to grab as much information while you're asking those questions, because then what you're going to use is all the information that they're giving you, you're going to use it against them in order to close them, right? So if they're saying, that, they've been struggling for a long time, and, that, they're about to lose their house, then, you can bring that back and saying, that's the reason why, you cannot miss on something like this, because, you cannot keep living the same way. You need to make a change, and we both know it, right? And that's where you can bring them to that spot of accountability. You can, really work really further down with them, because you were able to ask the right questions and get the right information, and then use that information in order to lock them in. So there's no way they can go, right? So that's why if you don't have enough information to lock them in at the end, that means you didn't ask the right questions in order to get that information that you needed in order to lock them in and close them, right? So that's something that also, has to be in the pitch, right? So when you're doing the pitch, what are you collecting? What type of information are you asking? And then just, make it all as a conversation, right? Don't make it sound like a robotic, because then they could feel that they're just getting pitch, and it's not like natural. It's not really, you're not really caring about them, right? But when you really take that, one-on-one approach, and then just go all in, like they can feel like like you're really personable with them. They'll just go all in, and they'll share with you their situations and everything. And then it's your turn to take all the pain, and it's like, hey, I know it's hurting, all the pain that you're telling me, and that, it's like you're suffocating it. You're suffocating with all of that. But, my program or my product is going to be able to solve that problem, right? So you press a little bit more on the pains that they're making them, just feel that suffocation. And then, it's like, hey, let's stop suffocating, because I have this product that will save you right now, right? And that's where you help them, right? They feel like, man, this guy actually helped me so much, because, but sometimes they don't make themselves feel that pain. It's just like whatever. For them, it's like whatever. But for us, it's not like whatever, because we make sure that they feel the pain so much at that, and we try to press it on at that point, at that second on the call, they can feel it in that moment, and they could maybe put, all their emotions into it, because sometimes they just put their minds to it, but their emotions are not into it, so they just don't care. They're like, oh, whatever, it's just whatever. But it's not whatever, because
it's their life.
It's their life. It's everything, right? So, yeah.
So let's just try to recap. So you're building rapport with people. You're building like a relationship by having a genuine interest in who they are and what their goals are and what they're doing and what they're, and their situation, and just getting to know them like you would with any friend. Like, what's your favorite song and what's this color? And you're just asking information, but it needs to be targeted to the situation and the problem at hand. And then you want to disturb them, it sounds like. Like when you find the pain, you actually want to sit in it. And this is probably where a lot of people struggle, because you don't want to ever make anyone feel bad. But for them, you want to get them to open up and talk about the pain more. You want to get them to confide in you so you can really understand, because it's like they've got a thorn in their side. They've got a bleeding neck, so to speak. And sometimes, like if you have a pet or an animal, they'll hide it from you. Cats, they always hide their injuries, right? They're not going to expose it. And so that's where you really want to understand that, because someone could have something that's a real problem in their life, and maybe you don't have a product to sell them. But as a salesperson, your goal is to understand and uncover the biggest, deepest, most biggest pains in their life, and then try to help them make a decision. I think most people in this life watch too much television. If we all did more, we would actually have more. If we went to the gym more, we would have better physiques. If we talked to our friends more, we would have better relationships. If we spent more time caring about our partner and asking them questions, we would have better relationships with them. Like all these things, if we read more, we would have more knowledge. If we did more conferences or got more education, we would be smarter. So I really believe that there's a lot of benefit as a salesperson in getting someone to take action into the direction of solving a pain in their life versus letting them sit and suffer and letting that get infected and just become worse. So it sounds like from what you're saying is you use questions to not only qualify them, but to understand the full dynamic of their personal situation. And doing that, you build a relationship with them because they're like, wow, this person really cares about me. They really seem to want to know about my life, my situation. And then you're treating it like a stern but loving parent and trying to get them, well, then why don't you do this? Why wouldn't this be the perfect idea? And you're trying to make it so you're like a third party. Even though you may represent a company, you're like, you take your personal gain out of it. And so really you're just trying to be like a trusted advisor, a stern but loving parent, to be like, well, why wouldn't you do that? Like, what's the problem with that? Why? And then when they bring up those objections, you can go, I understand why you might feel that way. Have you thought about this? And then you keep using questions to get them to explore that thing. Like, well, okay, you don't have the money. I mean, think of it as if you're inviting a friend to see a movie. It's never like, hey, you want to see a movie? Well, maybe, but I don't know. I got this thing tomorrow. Okay, but you're like, do you really have to get it done tomorrow? Or, could I help you with it later tonight? Like now you're negotiating, and it's not a yes or no. It's a how do we make it work kind of collaboration. Am I close? Would you say there were any big flaws, or how would you improve on what I've just suggested?
No, yes, you're correct. Have to definitely put in everything you have, right, into sales. It's not just one thing, right? It's not just like, oh, I'm gonna agree and then disagree but not ask them questions, right? It's like, that's the thing with sales, right? Like, there's so many things that go involved. That's why it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of, dedication, and just making sure that, that you're learning, right? That you're learning and that you're doing all of that stuff, right? So it's like you have to keep a positive attitude, stay consistent. You need to, ask the right questions. You need to, get familiar with the no's, not let any no just, lose your attitude or whatever. You have to keep that positive attitude, and you have to understand the law of average. That law of average is, it's like more doors that you hit, more sales that you will get. The more calls that you will make, the more sales that you will make. Mm-hmm. But it's like, it's a numbers game, right? Like you have to go through the numbers. You have to get through the no's in order to get to the yeses. And then a really good way to, like a mind hack that you can use to go towards all those no's to get to the yes is by every time you get a no, you get excited, you're happy, you have your good attitude. Why? Because you're getting closer to your yes. And if you always have that mindset, then you never lose your attitude, because whatever happens in that call, even if it's a no, you get pumped, you get excited. Why? Because you're closer to your yes, and then you just hit that next call, or you just hit that next door, or you just hit that next, you hit the next prospect, right? So, and with a very high quality attitude, and very keeping yourself in like good vibrations, and not, lowering yourself for, oh, why they said no, or was it because of me, or because they didn't like me? Like, just like take responsibility and just be happy and go towards the next. that's something that will definitely help.
Now, a couple of questions. I love what you said, and so far, people that are paying attention, I already think you probably want to listen to this a couple of times over, because there's no magic room. There's nothing we're talking about here that we're going to hang up and then go, okay, now this is the real stuff. Hey, now that we told those losers this stuff, like that's just not the reality situation. What you're hearing today is literally what's working for both of us, and you're clearly, David, you're clearly the expert more than I am, but it's working for both of us, and we're really trying to say this to help you in your best interest. So by all means, I hope you're taking notes at this point, and if you haven't been, you may want to re-listen to this call and maybe just re-listen to it anyways, just for the sake of repetition and helping with learning. But now, David, I want to ask a couple other things. So one, I want to get you to talk about teaching versus selling, because a lot of times people will open up the pain, and then because they want to help, we all want to help each other, they jump in and solve it right away. And then also, about how many touches do you, when do you let a lead go? How many touches do you go for? Do you follow up with them forever, even if they've said, leave me alone already? How do you, do you have a goal? When you get a lead, are you I'm going to contact this person 12 times no matter what happens? I'm going to contact them 12 times no matter what happens. Remove yourself from any outcome and just kind of, again, just gardening every day, just chipping away at this thing and just getting comfortable with it. Is there anything like that? Can you speak to those two things, follow up, and then also how to avoid solving their pain when you're trying to close a deal?
Yeah, so when it comes down to solving the pain, right, I really focus on making sure that we could be a right fit for them to really fit to just handle the pain of the problem that they're going through. And I just really make sure that they analyze that. Hey, my pain is this. It's very harsh right now, and I make them feel it. And then it's okay, if I don't take action right now, then I'm still going to feel this pain. It's going to get worse. And then that's where we can even compound the pain. We can even talk about compounding the pain for the next 5 years, and it's even going to get worse. So we cannot even let that point happen. So we need to act right now. So even harsh, we push down and until we are a right fit and go for the close. Now, the other question you asked was, sorry for that. The other question was...
No, it's okay. I'm bad for being hey, here's 7 questions because they're all on my mind, blah, and so it's all good. Yeah, one was how to avoid solving the problem for them instead of closing them on the deal. And I think you answered that. You were saying that it's just to lean in on the problem more because you're probably not going to fix it in a quick fix. You might be able to give them a tip, but you won't be there to supervise, or your company won't be there to supervise and handhold. And, you're basically giving up control, and you're just giving them, something to like a Band-Aid solution to the pain. Well, you could just do this, and that might solve the problem. And they're oh, you're right, but you're not actually going to get involved in it with them. You're not getting into the mud with them to solve this thing, even if you're just a sales rep and the company's going to do it. They're not going to have, it's like if someone wanted to win a gold medal, would they be better off training in the garage on their own or having 3 coaches that all previously won gold medals? Of course they would do better with the 3 coaches. So you spoke to that. How about the touches and the follow-up? When you get a lead, are you in your head, because they always say the fortune's in the follow-up. So do you just keep, I was just asking that, do you have a default 12-touch kind of system that every lead is going to get, and they're either going to buy at touch 1 or they're going to buy at touch 7 or touch 12, but no matter what, we're going to send these emails and make these calls if they don't buy? Is there something like that? How do you know when following up is too much or not enough?
Yeah, so it really depends how you're doing it, right? An example, if you have a whole funnel and you have your whole marketing system in place, and then you're just getting leads in that type of matter, then I would definitely have a five sequence follow-up where you're dragging them back into different offers, or just making sure you nurture the lead, right, further down the road. Now, when you're talking to them from just a meeting or from a prospecting, then, or you just spoke to a lead that you got on the phone with, then yes, you want to follow up at least, if you weren't able to close them on the spot and they really had reasons why they couldn't do it that time, then you want to make sure you follow up, right? And have a way to come back in, right? Because maybe that day for whatever reason, they actually had really reasons why they couldn't do it, then you want to make sure that you have a way to come back at them, right?
Can you speak to that a little bit more? What are some of the reasons for being in touch? What are some of the reasons to follow up? Because sometimes we're like, well, I called him and he said he wasn't interested, so now what am I calling him for?
So it's like you want to keep notes, right? Like if I called and he didn't pick up, right, then I'm going to, write down that he didn't pick up so I can call back again another time and until I speak to them, right? Then if I spoke to them, then, I want to, put the key point. I want to write down the queens or the things that I was able to, grab from the conversation, just like key points so I can remember. And then when I follow up with them, I'm like, hey, how's it going? Then I could go back towards everything and then pitch them again. But like, yes, you're going to make a lot of money on the follow-ups, right? But you're also going to make sometimes a lot of sales just on the first call, right? But it does not mean that you're not going to follow up with all the lists, right? It's like, don't cherry pick. I always say that, don't cherry pick. Like, make sure you hit every single, lead, every single call, right? That you just follow up, that you work the right way. Because if you do all those things in the back end, you will have a lot of sales. It's like you have, the people that for whatever reason they couldn't sign up last week, but they can this week, and you were just because you were following up and you were putting yourself out there, you were able to grab all of that people, right? So it's for sure to follow up. You have to have either a CRM or systems in order to be able to follow up with with the people nowadays.
So can we speak to the habits a little bit? Like, what are some of the day-to-day habits of the most successful sales reps, like yourself and clients that you've worked with?
Like some success?
The most successful habits and routines and rituals, like of yourself and some of the people that you've worked with.
So we meditate a lot, right? We just let positive energy just, fill us up, like really understand that we're going out there to make a positive impact, and that we just have to stay in positivity. So something that's really powerful for myself, and it's like a negative thought will bring you to another negative thought, and another negative thought, and then another negative thought, and then another negative thought, and then another negative thought. And then you're surrounded in a tornado of negativity because just one negative thought brought you into this whole tornado. Then with positivity is the same thing. One positive thought will bring you to another positive thought, to another positive thought, and then you're just going to be in a tornado of positivity. So whenever negativity comes your way, it's just gonna bounce back right away because you're in that positivity and that tornado of positivity. And when you're able to just, every day, like live it as a habit where you're just living in that tornado of positivity because you're feeding yourself in positivity only and staying away from all that negative. That's something that, for myself and even a lot of mentors that I've had, like it's a rule. It's like we have to do it. It's no matter what, we have to really build in that life, because there's so much negativity that can happen right away, or even just things that can happen in life or in a day that can just hit us. But because we have that positive tornado all around us all the time, it just doesn't hit us the same way. And that's something that keeps allowing you to perform and not bring down the productivity just because things happen. And that's something that you have to have, you have to learn and really start, having it as a habit all the time in order to always be able to perform. Because if not, things out there will just crush you. And, it happens, and it's very hard. It's very hard not to always do that, sometimes I like, if I have to struggle for a minute or two if something happens, but I wouldn't struggle the same way, just because right away I know exactly how to I bring my mind right to track again. I'm like, hey, no, it's positivity, boom. And I change away from all that negativity. Even though if it was something really bad, I automatically bounce back from there, because it's like I'm in that positivity mindset. And I know that if I just keep my mind like just one more minute or 30 seconds more in just that subject that's negative, it's automatically going to bring me to another negative thought, and that's where I'm going to be in a wrong direction. And if every day, you could just live like that and into your habits, I think that there's a lot of positive things that happen, that will happen in your life. Like, and that's
I love that. I think that's great. So meditating is a really important, consistent, regular habit that you feel that a lot of the top performers have, and it's to maintain your state. It's to maintain the integrity of your positive attitude, despite having to talk to someone who maybe isn't as enthusiastic about what you've got as you are. And it's about being self-sufficient. It's almost like it's building yourself up enough that if you talk to someone, they try to steal a little piece of your energy, it's not enough to slow you down. I love that. That's really good. We haven't talked about sales scripts at all here. Now, how do they fit in? Do you feel that sales scripts are essential? Like, what are your thoughts on those?
Yeah, it's for sure. Like, you need a script, right? So whatever you're selling, you need to have a script, right? A good way of introduction, short story, presentation, and then go for the close, and then the rehash. The rehash is when you follow up again with them and all of that. So it's like you need to, practice the pitch as, as you're doing a conversation. It just doesn't sound robotic, right? And the same thing, like if you're trying to sell an info product, or you're trying to sell anything online, right? You need a sales letter, right? And the page, in order to really, captivate the audience. Then the same thing, right? And when you're trying to go for a market, you need a script, and you need to practice it over and over and over and over and over again until, you just feel like it's natural, and that you're qualifying the prospect, you're asking all the questions that you need to know to get the right information, to then be able to bounce back. You need to, it's like, you need to have a script for sure.
I love the analogy before where you said, like, as you overcome objections, you get excited because you're like getting your prospect naked, in the sense of, in the beginning, maybe because they don't know you, or they're expecting you to force them into something. They've got their armor on, and they're big, but slowly you're like, oh, let's take the shield off. All right, let's take off the helmet. Hey, let's take off that chainmail. Hey, still got those big heavy boots. Let's get rid of those. And it's overcoming these things. Or you might be finding out that there's actual real flaws or something as a company, as a business, that you guys need to solve. And maybe there's some things that you might have to confess and admit, like, you're right, we aren't perfect, and that's a real fact of that. And if that matters to you, then then maybe this isn't a good fit. But if you care about X, Y, Z, A, B, C, then maybe you can forgive us for this shortcoming.
Yep.
Sorry, that was. 100%. I guess I was saying it more for myself, because I'm, I think you're right. Sales is the lifeblood of any business. Sales is how we persuade things. I'm having issues in this condo complex I'm living in now with pets. We brought 100 people together, and we're trying to persuade building management, because it's like 10 to 11% of people that live here, and those are just the people that have raised their hand. There's tons of people that have pets that aren't getting involved because they haven't been identified, or they just don't want to get involved. So I think sales is, like you said, it's such a critical part of our life and our skills, from not just growing our businesses, but convincing our spouses to stay with us, or convincing someone to become our spouse, or convincing our children to make the right decisions in lives, or convincing, like, again, 101 different opportunities. Is there anything I didn't ask you that I should have asked you?
No, I don't know. There's a lot of questions to ask in this world, right? But yeah, there's always, and when it comes down to sales, we can just keep going for days and days and days, right? Because there's just so much, to learn about sales and to implement, right? And when it comes down to marketing too, there's a lot of, like, we can go for days too. But it really all comes down to, what are you doing, right now that's going to take you where you want to be tomorrow, right? And try to really always be in that mindset, right? Like, what am I doing right now that's going to get me where I want to be tomorrow? And it's going to, bring that importance of like, hey, like, am I wasting time right now? Or, just it allows you to just stay away from all the stuff that doesn't bring you any good to your life and just start being productive, right? And just ask that question all the time. Like, what am I doing right now that will take me where I want to be tomorrow? And then try to live on that until you really find your purpose and what you want to do.
I love it. Well, David, this has been such a good info pack call. If people want to reach out to you, if people want to get involved, if they want to get your help with their sales or their sales teams, how do they reach out and find you?
So they can go to the website, majestylevelmarketing.com, or at Instagram, david.lopez.corp. And right there, they can shoot me a message, and I'll be there to help.
Can you give those URLs one more time?
majestylevelmarketing.com. That's for the website. And for the Instagram, it's david.lopez.corp.
Awesome. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I'd love to do a follow-up in a couple of months. Thank you for coming and sharing with us on this literally life or death skill for a lot of businesses. I know you've got your own people, your own following, your own stuff you could be doing. So thank you for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure being here.
You've reached the end of our interview. Now, first, let me thank you for listening. I appreciate and respect you more than you'll ever know. And now I'd like to ask you a couple of questions. First, what 3 lessons did you just learn? What 3 aha moments just jumped out at you? Second, what can you implement for yourself and your business in the next 24 hours? Third, what can you give to someone else to help you with, or give to them to just do it for you? Whatever it is, remember, taking action is the secret sauce to results. Now, if you think this interview would be helpful for a friend, please give them a link to it. It'll help them and it'll help me too. I'd also like to invite you to help me find out more about the challenges you're facing, your dreams, your goals, and how I can help you overcome what's holding you back. We both do better when we know better, and your success is my success. So please reach out and interact. You can visit our website, bestbusinesscoach.ca for Canada or California, where I'm from and where I'm living. You're welcome to also try out one of our paid programs. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, and pretty much every other social media channel you can think of. You should also subscribe to the podcast, and if you're enjoying them, please leave us a nice review. It really helps. That's all for now. Once again, thank you. Take care of yourself, and remember, the world needs the best business you can build. And I believe in you.